Hello and welcome to Master the Moment. I'm Joe.
And I'm Christian, and Joe and I are the co-founders of the Culinary Executive Mastermind. And in this podcast, Joe and I are going to share with you our knowledge, our experience, and our expertise to help you to create a better life for yourself, for your family, for your career, and for your business.
Hello and welcome to Master Your Clarity. I'm Chef Joe and our co-host, Chef Christian.
Hey, Chef. Clarity is one of those things. I think I sometimes still struggle with that. How about you?
Oh, every day we have to keep at it. You have to work at clarity because your day changes.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think there's a few things I learned around clarity, and clarity is really taking the time and digging in and really kind of peeling it back. What is my purpose? What are some of my values? And then also, does that context help people to kind of engage with you and build trust and build camaraderie? And that's for me, clarity is just one of those things. And we hear it a lot on our events that people want to have more clarity. And I also believe clarity is power. And we sometimes have the tendency to make things really complicated. And if you have that big of a complicated product, I think it holds you back from taking action. So I certainly feel that
Absolutely.
complexity is the enemy of execution. So that's really the tough one. But I want to talk a little bit about, how we manage clarity, what do we do to get really clear. I think our listeners want to know about that. And then let's just share our top three as we always do. So for you, what is number one for you around clarity?
I I I come back to clarity equals happiness. When
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy, I'm usually very clear with things. It becomes also what we're trying to do throughout all of our journey here, your life journey and my
Mm-hmm.
life journey. What we have found the success in all of this, it's habits, systems, call it whatever you want to call it, but it becomes a lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
And when it becomes a lifestyle, it makes it easier. And again, going back to what you were saying, simplicity, easier. I say easier because
Yep.
if things are done easily, they're more likely to get done. Um, and to find clarity, you're absolutely right. If I am getting nervous, jumpy, edgy,
Mm-hmm.
all you have to do is say, "What's wrong?" And it's probably I'm not clear on something. It comes back to not clear. When you're edgy, jumpy, let's come back to it. You're not very happy.
I love that because for me, my number one is, it needs to play towards your values because I
Yep.
believe if you try to do something which is not which who you are and how you are made and aligns with your values, it's really hard to get clarity around that. So for me, my first point is values that, you need to be really in tune with what are your values, what you want to get out of it and kind of play around that. And for me, again, that's my first point. My second one is purpose. I believe they kind of go hand in hand.
Yep.
If I have value and I know what drives me and what I want to get done and I have the purpose to make it happen, it really for me it makes it kind of clear what I'm after, what I want to accomplish, what do I want to achieve, or how I want to share. And also for me, it's a way of being. So value is my number one. Purpose is number two. What is your number two, Chef?
Number two, organization.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm more organized and I practice organization, it really becomes clarity. You've got kids, I've got kids.
Mm-hmm.
You ever walk into the room and three of them, and you're like, okay, you in that corner, you in that corner. Now, what is it? Okay, Johnny, give that back, and then you peel it all back, and okay, give your sister the pin. And it had nothing to do with she's screaming bicycle and he's screaming, oh, let go. So it's organization. I see as the secret sauce.
Awesome.
You
So
get yourself, go ahead.
what is your third one? I liked your thought process. So what is your third one? So you have the happiness, whatever you had.
Right?
The second one is the organization. So what is your third one?
It's a guiding light.
Hmm.
Absolutely. If I look back on my career since day one, when I set foot and said, I want to make culinarian my life journey, my career, once I did that, that was my guiding light. I I guess some people say I don't know what they want to be when I grow up.
Hmm.
And they're, to me, I think they're even successful people. I've
Yeah.
never had that problem because I know my next step. This is our second chapter of our lives. This whole program of Culinary Executive Mastermind. If
Hmm.
you sat down and we could do a podcast for the next 6 hours, I could tell you what's going to happen in 6 months. What does this look like in a year? It's my guiding light. Where will you be? I'm going to go to Austria. I'm sitting there below this mountain. Sun is shining on me, and we're doing a podcast from there.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And for me, my third one, having the values and purpose is the one and two. And for me, kind of is context. And let me explain a little bit how context for me, what that looks like. So for me, I'm a big believer that clarity of vision is clarity around priorities. So for me,
Yep.
context is really important because I believe true clarity gives you context, and having true clarity that builds trust with you, with your team, with your family, with the people you come in contact with. And then real clarity also creates camaraderie. And that's what I love about our program is that with the help of everybody else. So for me, around context is kind of inviting people in that process. You and I talk
Yep.
a lot about what is our process, and every time when we have conversations, I learn something. We had a great conversation last night. I have a page and a half of notes from that, and and for me, I think that's really assists around clarity is that camaraderie, the context of
Yes.
all of that, kind of bringing camaraderie in. If you making yourself vulnerable and kind of raise your hand and ask people to kind of provide some feedback, there's some really phenomenal people out there which doing great things, and having the opportunity to connect with them, have the opportunity to ask for their advice and acting on their advice, I
Yep.
believe it's for me it's just huge. So that's for me around clarity. Let's talk a little bit about clarity. Where do you feel people getting stuck? What is one or two things people get stuck around clarity?
You know, it comes back to yourself, I believe, because in fact, I asked this question to you when we first met. Hey, what makes your belly laugh?
Hmm.
And I'll ask people that, and they'll say, that's a good question.
Yeah.
And I feel that if they don't even know really what makes them laugh, what about the rest of the day when all these things are coming at you
Hmm.
and you say, okay, you want that red car? Well, maybe I wanted a maroon car. They're not confident enough with
Yeah.
themselves. They don't have clear clarity because it starts with yourself. Let's go back to your career. You started off, you became the chef, you became certified, you owned restaurant, you it was the path of clarity for you.
Hmm.
At any given point, were you really confused? It doesn't seem so.
Yeah, maybe I did a good job hiding it. But for me, I always felt, there's an African proverb. It's say if you want to go fast, go by yourself. If you want to go far, go with a group. And so for me, was always I was a big believer in kind of working with group because I honestly believe if you get other people's input, it helps. So for me, my 2 points why people get stuck is number one, I think they take on too much and make it too
Yep.
complicated. As we said
Oh,
earlier, for
absolutely.
me, complexity is the enemy of execution, and people kind of get just stuck and get nothing done. And the second thing is really they trying to play to something which is not who they truly are. So I
Yep.
believe if you really come from within and do that, it's becomes easier to be clear about something. And coming back to the camaraderie we talked about, that's what I love in our groups. And having somebody here which you can be vulnerable with, and somebody who has done it already, having conversations with them, it just takes all of that nonsense out, and it goes really quick. And you don't want to fester in that. So for me, I think the two things for people get stuck with is really around complexity. They're trying to do too much, too big, too fast. And and the second is really around that they don't have the people which kind of lift them up around you. So what is your number two?
So, the again, the simplicity of it.
Mm-hmm.
I use, as you well know, rule of what? 3.
Yep.
So then it seems like what I call noise. A lot of noise goes away. For me, again, I put things what I call a drawing board.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just seems to go away. Is it being addressed? Yes, it will be addressed at the proper time. And yes, I am guilty of it sometimes. I get so many thoughts. I get so excited. I mean, you've had those phone
Mm-hmm.
calls and I don't even complete one sentence and I'll say 9 things and you just tell me, you've said 9 things. What are you? So we're all guilty of it.
Yep.
But at the end of it is like you put it down there and then you go, for me, the secret sauce and what I try to pass on so I can get clarity when I get all foggy heady is I do rule of 3.
Mm-hmm.
Rule of 3. What are the top 3 things that I want to get accomplished or what I'm trying to get across? Use my rule of 3, then people can then again understand me.
Yep.
Can you imagine that? Sometimes I talk too fast.
No, not you, Joe. So let me ask you the question. And so what
Yeah.
I'm hearing is saying is that's what helps you get
Yes.
unstuck when you feel get stuck.
Yep.
Um, what are some other habits or tools or strategies you deploy when you feel stuck and you feel like you need some more clarity? What do you do? How do you get yourself out of it?
You know what? There's in fact, actually, I believe I texted to you. I have a very good friend. They're reading a book called Essentials. And
Mm-hmm.
what the basis of this book is what's on your what's on your table right now? I've got a pen, a paper, a cup, and my phone. That's it.
Yeah.
I take the rest of the stuff away. So that has definitely helped me because again, you know me, we can get very excited,
Mm-hmm.
but I've been using the premise of the book, Essentials, what you really, really need.
Yeah.
And it's, boy, it almost cleans the cobwebs out.
I love that. It's very similar to mine. You know the planner I use.
Yep.
And for me, people laugh about my planner because it has two sides. I write down the 10 things I want to get done and I schedule out my day in half-hour increments. And then for me is around clarities. I have one top goal I want to achieve that day and how can it work into all the other things I do? And that seems to work really well. But for me, when I do feel stuck is I feel talking to the right person helps me get out of that. And then for me, is taking care of myself. So for me, self care is important, and taking the time to listen to something uplifting and surround yourself with great minds helps me to get out of it. So that's for me probably my biggest resource or my
So
biggest tools to feel or get unstuck.
and I'll tag on to that because we're both business owners and we have things that pop up during the day.
Mm-hmm.
If it all of a sudden overwhelms me and I'm like, again, using the word what you said, I'm stuck on it. Yes, absolutely. I reach out to the professionals that say, hey, have you been in this situation? They give me the feedback
Mm-hmm.
and that usually gives me the clarity to move on with what I want to do. And again, I think it becomes a lifestyle because being stuck is like saying no.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to say no, even though we know the practice of no, but you get the idea of what I'm saying.
Yep.
It's a lifestyle that if there's a barrier, there's a way around that barrier. And that's what
Absolutely.
I think that helps me with clarity because I don't take it as oh my God, and then have this drama. As you well know, I have zero tolerance for drama. And I
Eh,
think not having drama in your life, you know, or a minimum of it helps the clarity of it. Um,
Absolutely.
the other thing too is to get unstuck with that is looking into the future with it. You
Mm-hmm.
and I again have big plans for CEMM and what's that vision. So I think every day it's like a step towards it. It's in the back of your mind, and I know that when I wake up, everything I'm doing is a direction to fulfill the dream of CEMM.
I liked where you led into this because for me, if I really have to sum it up to one word, for me, it's purpose. You
Yep.
need to be intentional and have purpose when you do it. And I believe in our industry, especially for the culinarians in the back of the house, it's really hard to get out of that because it's not something which was taught in a culinary school, and it's not what they get taught by the people they work for or work with. So having an opportunity to connect with a group which feels and thinks a little bit differently helps you kind of elevate. Because one thing for me, I always feel is the biggest benefit of our program is that when somebody shares or if somebody asks for help, for some people it's so clear. I can believe they can't
Yep.
see it. But it's
Yep.
the blind spot, and just having somebody who looks out for you and say, "Hey, this is a blind spot of yours. Let me help you through that." As for me, I believe the biggest benefit of having the program because it becomes so obvious to somebody from the outside, and you just can't get beyond it. It's that whole philosophy. Have you ever looked for your car keys and you flipping up? Where's my car keys? I can't find car. And then there's your kid say, "Hey, they're right here," and you stared right at them. And
Yep.
I believe that's really the main benefit of our program, helping people getting unstuck and kind of have the opportunity to think differently. And that's something you and I are really good at, and that's what we like to share. So if somebody feels they need a little bit more clarity, how can people get a hold of us?
They can get a hold of us on YouTube. They can get a hold of us on Facebook. They can get a hold of us on this podcast. They can get a hold of us on our website. So we're on every social media, Instagram. We're on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
So we're on all the social media platforms. And again, Culinary Executive Mastermind. Um, we're here to help you.
Absolutely. And so if you, our listener here, feel like you need help getting unstuck or you need help around clarity, you need to come to one of our events. And our events, the first event is 100% for free. So you have nothing to lose and everything to gain. So come and be part of that, best drive us and see if that really works for you. And we are totally in alignment that it's not for everybody. And we understand that. And but now, where you have the opportunity to be part of something, and we say this all the time, now you have a responsibility to do that. And if you learn something new and you know how you got unstuck, I think you have the the responsibility to teach somebody else, help them get unstuck. So you need to come to our events. We hold them on Thursday evenings, 4 p.m. Eastern time. You can sign up through our website. And again, the first event is for free. So you have a 2 weeks, 100% money back guarantee. If you don't like Joe or me, questions asked, you just let us know and we give you your money back. But we would love to have you be part of that, help us kind of drive this movement and bring a new thought process to our organization and to our industry, which is duly needed to help other chefs get unstuck. So with that, thank you for being part of today's podcast. If you'd like to know more, as Joe said, you can find up on our website. Also on below here on the link, we're going to share with you where you can find us. And also we would like to hear some feedback from you. So
I'd
if you
love
have a
to.
really cool way on getting clear about things, what you're working on, we would like to know. Because one thing Joe and I are huge fans of is the continuous mindset of learning. So if somebody has a better idea than what we have, we're certainly willing to adapt it and share it and give you 100% credit for. So with that, great having you guys on today's podcast, and I'm sure we're going to talk to you sometime soon. Thanks.
Make it happen.